Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuesday with Terry. I'm excited to be here talking to you live from Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are free on over here. It's great to be back. It's great to be sharing and talking with you folks. You know, I was looking through some of my notes, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions, and the first part of this question is, did you know? And I don't know if you knew this or not, but 87% of salespeople actually miss their quota. Did you know that? Did you know that 70% of your team, your employees, are probably somewhat disengaged? Did you know that 64% of salespeople have no game plan in order to achieve the results that they're looking for? 64%. Holy cow, right? That's a big number. 48% of sales they don't even follow up, right? So almost 50% of the people never follow up even one time. And 80% of your management team say that they don't have time to train their people. The reason I share that with you is because if you're looking for ways to teach, train, motivate, inspire, engage, follow up, maybe one of the things you could do is use Tuesday with Terry and share that with your team. Maybe have them get online. If you hear some good things, maybe that would be something that could be helpful. When you ask for the sale, sometimes people give you objections or they have questions. And it doesn't mean that questions are bad. It just means that they have questions. If you're working with a group of new salespeople, a lot of times they take those questions and they say, oh my gosh, this guy gave me objections. Well, he didn't really give you objections. He just simply had more questions. Don't misunderstand questions and more information for objections. So a lot of times what happens is when you boil it down to all the pieces and parts, what you find out is there's probably 4 or 5 basic objections that you're going to get over and over and over again. For us in my business, that's time. I don't have the time. I don't have the time to work out. You might find that people say they don't have the time to meet with you. They don't have the time to spend for your product or service, or I can't take the time. A lot of times people say they need to check with a higher power. Sometimes that's the spouse. Sometimes that's their boss. Sometimes it's other folks they got to check with. Sometimes people say they need to think about it, right? They don't like to make quick decisions. They got to go home and sleep on it, or they never make a decision the first time in. That's usually a smoke screen for something else, but a lot of times that happens. And then of course, price, right? A lot of times price will come up. Certainly in the environment that we're in, we see inflation happening. We see prices going up. And in essence, what you could expect is maybe somebody might say, hey, the price is too high, or it's more than I wanted to pay, or I didn't know it was that much, or, they cringe a little bit. Regardless of that, is what I want to walk you through today is a 6-step process that you can get into alignment and get back on track to try to move the deal forward. And the acronym that I want to use today is called AIRHUA. AIRHUA, right? So, however you want to say that, I don't care how you say it, but it's AIRHUA. So AIRHUA. Let me kind of go through that. So what this is a process for you to go through when you're trying to get to a close, or you're trying to get the sale, or you're trying to get the deal, or you're trying to move forward. What's the first thing, the second thing, the third thing, the fourth thing maybe that I can do to make that happen? So here we go. Here it is, AIRHUA. Number 1 is A. A stands for agreement. You got to get into an agreement. These are words or phrases that say, no problem, I understand, I hear you. Just verbally, or sorry, not verbally, but just physically shaking your head yes, or interesting, right? I can relate to that, or I hear you. Those were 5 or 6 different examples right there that when you say that, it breaks the barrier, it breaks the wall down. I spoke about breaking the walls and building bridges to get to the close or get to the sale. And a sale happens when money changes hands, right? So the first part of when somebody responds with an objection is try to come into some kind of an agreement with a phrase or a word phrase that allows them to know that you understand and you're hearing and you're listening to them. Number 2 is I. I stands for isolate. The I in AIRHUA is isolated. So what you want to find out is there a laundry list of things that they're going to bring up to say we can't go forward, or that are going to create speed bumps or roadblocks for us to get to the sale? Or is this your only concern, John? That becomes important, because if you can find out if it's 1, 2, or 3 concerns, then in fact, you can handle those concerns. But if you handle one and they give you another one, you don't know if they're going to give you 6, if they're going to give you 2, if they're going to give you 4. Find out, isolate, and say, is that your only concern? Number 3, the R in ARHUA stands for restating it. And so what you do is you repeat it back to them. And in our situation is you might say something like, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're telling me is, the price is a little bit too high. If I'm hearing you correctly, you want to check with your one. If I'm hearing you correctly, John, and I think I am, what you're really telling me is you need a little bit more time before you can make a decision. Is that true, right? And if they come into agreement with that, then you move to number 4. Number 4 is actually handling it. If you don't have a list of rebuttals, or you haven't pre-thought out what you would say to somebody in some of these objections, you need to do that for your business. You need to create, what are the common objections that you're getting? And what are the ways that I can persuade or convince, or the rebuttal that I can give to move beyond that? A lot of times what happens is people give you an objection and you immediately go into the rebuttal. I'm suggesting before you go into the rebuttal, you agree with it, you isolate, and then you repeat it back to them. And then you handle it. So in a price situation, again, we've all heard these before, probably, but this is, again, maybe just a review. If somebody brings up the price and they say, well, the price is too high, you say, no problem, I understand what you're saying. Is that your only concern? They say, yeah. And then you repeat it back. You say, well, if we can get beyond the price and we can see that the price is more than fair, we can get you on a go forward, or we can move ahead with the decision today. Am I understanding you correctly? And they say, yes. Then you handle the price. So in our business, we use what we call a talking pad. I always recommend a talking pad, because people don't buy based upon what they hear you say. They don't buy based upon what they see. They buy based upon what they believe. And many times the way we can get people to believe things is if we write them down as we're talking, because then they hear it from your voice, they see it on a piece of paper, and that becomes believable. We've all seen or heard people make comments or editorialize their opinions about things. And we said, well, where in the world did you hear that? And they said, well, I read it in the paper. I got it out of this magazine. I searched it on Google. Why, Wikipedia told me that. That's how I got that information. Well, a lot of times those are just editorialized opinions. In any case, when we talk about the price, if somebody says the price is too high, we go through that. And here would be some of that rebuttal. We said, well, let me ask you a question, John. How high too high is it? This is the rebuttal going on. I'm just kind of role playing and letting you hear this. How high too high is it? They said, well, it's about $59. I expected it to be around $100. So what you do is you take that $59. First of all, you write the word price, or you put a dollar sign down on a piece of paper. And then the next thing you do is you write down $59. They said it was $59 too high. Well, let me ask you a question, John. How many times would you be using the studio? How many times would you be using our business? Or they say, well, I'm probably going to get in here 2-3 times a week. I say, if it's 3 times a week, how many times is that in a month? And they say, why, that's 3 times 4 is 12 times in the month. The reason this becomes important is this dialogue versus monologue. The reason that's important is because we've got to get them to start talking, and you've got to get them to say it. They cannot argue with themselves. So I know there's 4 weeks in the month, and I know that 3 times a week is 12. But if I say it, I'm the salesperson, and they would expect me to say it. What I'm trying to do is get them to do the math, get them to say it, because they cannot argue with themselves. So they're going to come in here 12 times. We say, well, if you come in here 12 times in the month and it's $60, how many times does 12 go into 60? Well, that's easy. That's about 5 times. So it's $5 more per workout. Isn't that true? Of course it is. Then you ask this question, John, what could you do with $5? And they say, well, I can buy a foot-long Subway sandwich. I can get 1.5 gallons of gas. Might be able to get a few other things. But, really, what can I really do for $5 is maybe get a Starbucks even, right? Then I ask them, what's the best thing they can do for $5? And they say, probably spend it on myself to look better and to feel better. As soon as I handle it and we get to that conclusion, I go back to the U in Erhua and I talk about using the pile-on effect. The pile-on effect is when I have a laundry list of things about all the good things about my business. If you don't have this, you need to create this. You need to create the top 25 reasons why somebody would use your product or your service. You need to create a list of 25 things or why somebody wants your product or service and why they want that today. But you use the pile-on effect because everybody in their mind has a scale. And they're saying, well, that makes sense. And then as soon as they say, yeah, that makes sense, what's the best thing I can do for $5? You immediately start to pile on saying, remember, it's science-backed, technology-tracked. We have coaches. You can work out with a friend. It's a different workout every day. We have 55 classes a week. There's no long contracts. It's month-to-month program. And we start piling on all these pieces and parts. And then finally, we wrap that up with the A in Erhua. We ask for the sale again. You don't say the same thing. If the first time you said, which of these options are best for you, the next one might be, which credit card would you like to use, Visa, MasterCard, or American Express? If you already use that one, then you might say our membership is a simple process. John, I want to remind you, the easiest part of that is going ahead and getting started today. Again, Erhua, agree, isolate, restate, repeat back in question form, handle it, use the pile-on effect, and finish it up with asking for the sale. That's a way in a step-by-step process to overcome or handle an objection. Is it the only way? No. Is it the best way? Maybe, maybe not. But it is a way to get to where you want to go. And I'm going to wrap it up today by just asking this question again. The most important part of the sales process is you take a quick personal inventory on yourself now. What do you need to do more of? Or write it down. This is about you. What do you need to do less of? Write that down. What do you need to do in the next 30 days to really improve your sales presentation, your pitch, your sales process? Write it down. Are you proud of your performance? If you had to give yourself a grade, what grade would you give yourself? Can you see how some of this actually might help improve your process, your presentation, and get you to do more sales? You know, and I know you can do something and you can say something to get you closer to the sale, and you can do something and you can say something that could take you further away from the sale. What is it that needs to change today? What needs to change this week? What do you need to do to start making a difference? What are those 10 action items that you can put in place that will give you better results, better performance, better sales, better quality of life, better commissions, all that goes along with it? Anyway, hopefully that was a little helpful for you today. I appreciate your time. Tune in to us next Tuesday for another episode. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you. Bye-bye for now.